We out here. Reap the Harvest, Momentum Monday, getting real. Matt is on fire. Man,
Oh,
those
fire.
deals were closing. Matt, Matt's really excited when he's posting on Instagram.
Oh,
It's either push-ups, pictures of his wife and kids, or he went on a rampage last night and posted all these deals he closed. So tell the people about how you've been planting seeds and you reaped the harvest on these deals, these real estate deals.
the real estate deals. How did I plant the seeds? I like,
Well,
they
you've
were
been planting the seeds, but they were all different types of deals. So why don't you break a couple deals down for the people?
one of the deals was, so we have, oh, I don't know, we have a pipeline of, we actually closed on, so we closed on an 80 unit transaction that was seeded through my guys at Four Oaks Capital. Love them. I'll be bringing Eric on the show here soon as well, to talk a little bit more about his underwriting process. He's probably like the most unbelievable underwriter that you'll meet. The guy's good. The guy's real good. So that was honestly probably close to a year in the making. Planted a seed, threw something out there. One of my investors, I was trying to get him into a deal. We were trying to make something happen. And I threw something out, met him actually through social media. I do a lot of networking actually through social media, and then obviously through conferences or masterminds or whatever it may be. But I don't kill a relationship ever. And we had connected. We went through a series of phone calls. And then we've just courted a relationship over the past year and closed on an 80 unit. And I believe we closed today. I think today's that day. So we're going to be closing on an 80 unit today that I am a general partner and a limited partner in. So pretty excited about that one. And that was just like basically planting the seed of, creating an opportunity. We created synergy, hopped on a few phone calls, hopped on a few accelerated phone calls just to get to know each other. And then here we are today, right? So it definitely doesn't happen overnight, but it happens. And a couple of the other ones that happened, I had a pretty good size. I'm not big on numbers. I probably should start talking a little bit more about the numbers because it's good to talk about, but I'm looking at my board over here as we cycle through. So we closed on a 13-acre deal, a 4-1 13-acre deal last week. That was a pretty good sized deal. How'd that happen? I got an inroad with I know how to skip trace LLCs. So I got a little bit of an inroad there. I found that to be a niche. So reach out to me if you're trying to get in some niches, because riches are in the niches. We're going into probate here. In a couple weeks, we're actually going to be tapping into a lot of the probate list. And then another one, actually, this is a great one. This is actually quicker. It happened quicker than what I originally thought. So made a relationship on Facebook. A guy had reached out. He was newly tapped into the Florida market. And we were able to sell a deal for him. And it was a collab effort with my buddy Ken. And we were able to close that one in a period of like 2 weeks for this guy, like about 2-3 weeks. And now Eric's a friend, man. I'm actually going down to Miami probably to meet up with him, and make a long-term relationship out of it. So that was a good one. Then another relationship, one of my really good buddies, Jeremy, we connected on a Seminole Heights deal. Seminole Heights 33604 code is hot right now. I got a listing going up actually at the end of this month. That honestly, I'll talk a little bit more because I got myself in hot waters too on that one. Probably made a couple of the, I should have used a little bit more discernment in my approach on that one. But it is going to get sold. And so we have two going. A multi-lot deal with a 2-bedroom, 2-bath that we're closing on Wednesday. And then we got a couple more deals in the pipeline that we're actually trying to sell on. So trying to close on, I'm sorry. But honestly, all of them are through relationships. They were like, it's the creating those relationships, whether it be social media. Social media is just such a powerful outlet. Facebook is such a powerful outlet. And that's what I do. I JV on some deals. We have some deals coming in our pipeline as far as and throughout our marketing campaigns. But how do I do it? I just, I go back to, what we talked about on Friday. Sometimes it's just about being bold. You got to be bold. You got to throw yourself out there. You got to make action. If you fall flat on your face, well, then, redefine your definition of failure. What does failure look like to you? Is it going to hold you back, and are you going to go 10 steps backwards, or am I going to learn from it and see how I can just take one step forward tomorrow, because there's always a tomorrow. That's pretty much it, Pat. I mean, that's how we made those deals happen. It's a couple of them were actually inside of us obviously producing our own deals, but then how do we sell those deals? We create relationships from it. So I think it's just everything's a relationship game to me. Even if it's whether it's a seller or it's if it's a buyer, I try to create relationships. The worst thing about I think that's really gets me going on like wholesaling is that a lot of people have just super bad ethics, right? There's you either have ethics or you don't, right? And I think just being honest and transparent is so key, and like how you're going to process things. And we choose in our business to be transparent, right? And I'm not trying to be slimy, shady. There's a lot of people, like a lot of my good buddies that have created relationships in the wholesaling industry will JV on a deal, and I'll tell them right where I'm at. I'm like, bro, this is where I'm at. This is where the split's going to be. And that's how we're going to do it. You cool with it? Yeah, man, cool with it. Let's ride, and expectations are then set. Now let me see. I'm redefining my definition of failure right here. Right. So I did a very poor job at communicating with a retail sale. So we have a rental property. It's a really cool rental property with an in-law suite. And I messed up bad. So, and I was like, I realized, sometimes when you sit down and reflect, you're like, oh my gosh, man, like I handled that pretty poorly. So anyways, we have renters that were there, right? Renters were actually in place, and their lease came up at the end of March. And I'm like, hey, how about you just stay through April and May, and just because this whole COVID thing is weird, just stay through April and May. And we're like, okay, cool. So April comes around, and I find out that the renters potentially want to buy the house. It ends up not working out. But apparently I didn't communicate that I needed them out at the end of May. And, and they thought they were going to be out at the end of June. Again, it's on me. It's not on them. So I'm like, and I don't one thing I don't want to do is go into June trying to do like a cosmetic rehab and then try to sell it in July. Reason being is you're getting closer to the low demand months. So I call them low demand. There's probably going to be a little bit more uptick in supply and rather than demand, because you know what? A lot of people are going back to school August 1st. So they want to be moving in June and in July. They don't want to be moving, going into August when kids are going back to school. So anyways, I poor communication, right? How I should approach this scenario. I should have been, hey, I do still need you out at the end of May. If it leaks into June, totally cool. Totally fine. But I can't afford you go through the end of June. You know what I did? I said okay, no problem at all. I'll let you stay through the end of June. But you got to work with me with the cosmetic upgrades that we need to do. If anyone's lived through construction, everyone hates it. No one's ever said oh yeah, I can do that, right? It always takes longer. It always goes over a little bit on budget. All those things happen, right? The worst expectations that I possibly could have set there was hey, you got to live with this. And they were like, we don't love it, but we'll work with you, right? It's turned into an absolute nightmare. Not necessarily on their part. I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, I got to finish this up. And they're trying to work through, they're trying to live in the midst of almost a rehab. And I've displaced them a couple times. It's just that has not worked out, right? It's not worked out from a communication standpoint because The contractor is a few days behind, and by the grace of God, it's not a very messy rehab, but it's just been absolutely terrible. And I did that to myself, right? I didn't set the expectations, and expectations are massive. I could have been even a little bit more transparent, saying, "Hey, like expectations, transparency, setting those like, yeah, it's actually living through a construction zone." Probably not going to be the best. If you guys want to try to do it cool, I'll let you stay, but like probably not the best of scenarios. Another thing that I did, right? Because like apparently airheaded too, was I did a live stream through their house. Wanting to sell it and promote it because I know I got a lot of realtors looking at me. And of course they get mad about it. Of course they got mad. Why wouldn't you get mad about it? So the fact of the matter is I did a lot of like a couple really dumb things that I have to reflect and learn on, right? I gotta get their approval. I gotta get these things. Like they're not the guilty party. This is also all on me. And how do I reflect and learn from that? Setting expectations. If I could go back, I would have set the expectations right off the bat. No, I got to get you out by May because we need to get this house online ASAP if you're not going to buy it. And that's really where it should have came. If it leaked into June, by all means, I'm still cool. I'm cool with that. But like setting the expectations are so important in the ultimate success of yourself and everybody else involved, right? And just like the mental real estate of how you can keep yourself sane. So that's one thing I learned this week. I'm going to get real with you. That's one thing I learned.
Well, that's what I love about what we do on this show is that we talk about the good, the bad and the ugly. I mean, not everything's going to go perfect. There's an influencer that recently announced that she was splitting with her husband, and it's this big influencer. She's got millions of followers, and she sells relationship advice and marriage boot camps. And so there's a lot of angry women on these posts that are like, well, I feel duped. Now, I see it both ways, right? But I think what happens a lot with the internet is that people only use the internet to show what they want you to see for a long time. Like you talk about, slimy wholesalers. I think that wholesaling real estate is one of the slimiest guru things I've ever seen. I make fun of a lot of gurus just generically, but in the wholesale real estate space, it's rampant. I mean, it's terrible.
And then, the next thing you'll say is like, oh man, praise God. I love Jesus. Like, and then you're like, you just did it through like the slimiest measures possible. I'm
terrible.
Like, what the? Like, how can you even put God's name in that? Like,
and so I think that the problem we run into sometimes online is that it's easy to show everybody what they want to see because Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook, you can use a filter so you can filter everything that goes through that portal. So nobody really sees the truth. And I think that's what we don't want on this show is we want to talk about what's good and what's bad and what's hard and what's easy. And so that's another reason why we started a Reap the Harvest group. If you guys want to be a part of the group, message the page. We're going to open that up to, I think we're going to limit it to like 25 people at first because we're going to do, Matt's going to be doing private calls that are real estate based. And, we want to keep it tight. And Matt is someone that wants to over deliver. So we want to make sure that is a small group and that we grow from there because, it's not something that's for everybody. Being serious about Matt's niche in real estate is for serious, dedicated people. And I think that sometimes it's promoted as easier than it really is. And I don't even do real estate. I do marketing for a lot of people. Yeah. But I'm not passionate about the space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I love everybody in the community. I've been welcomed into the real estate community by awesome people. I'm not passionate about walking through houses and stuff like that. I just live in one.
Yeah, no, I completely understand.
You know what I mean? Like there's people that are really passionate about fabric and designing shoes and clothing. Like I just like wearing t-shirts.
Yes, you certainly do. You certainly love you certainly love wearing t-shirts, superhero t-shirts. But honestly, like my whole thing and, specifically even Reap the Harvest is the mindset, right? Is the mindset to, number one, be vulnerable. I think when you can be vulnerable yourself, you can turn it into one of your greatest strengths, right? Is that, if I'm willing to apologize, dude, I got myself in some pickles this week, like real pickles.
Right.
And just to be honest with you, man, one of them was like, how am I going to turn this into a good? And this one in particular with the rental situation wasn't even my biggest pickle. I can even build onto that really quickly, but the main thing is to be vulnerable to self. I think that can be one of your biggest strengths. And then, ultimately, number two is mindset, right? How are you going to live your best life? And what does your best life look like? Because you have to deal with the end in mind. One of the things I posted on my page was, beginning with the end in mind might be writing out your eulogy, right? How morbid is that? Writing, like, thinking of like what, in terms of like what you want somebody to read about you at your death. And I had to do that. I had to write that, for my grandfather. And man, was it an honor, because he was a phenomenal man, one of the best men I probably have known in my entire life. And I've gotten to know my dad actually very well, and extremely respect my dad. Respect my dad and my mom. I feel extremely blessed. My mom's birthday, we'll dedicate this one to her. Shout out to Mommy-O. But so anyways, it's like thinking with the end in mind, the eulogy, right? Think like, what do you want somebody to say about you? And it's I just think in terms like, is it the next buck, right? Is it the next business venture? I read there was something the other day like am I going to am I gonna, which I kind of understood this one. I was like, maybe I would if it got that busy and I needed to, but would I celebrate, those times I celebrated Christmas in January because I had business to do on December 25th, right? You probably won't see me do that because my why is a lot different, right? My why isn't business. I'm utilizing real estate as the vehicle. I'm utilizing avenues of real estate as the vehicle so that I could, work to live, not live to work, right? I want to enjoy what I do. I do enjoy what I do. I love when there's a cluster of deals coming through. That really gets me going. Not to say like I'm not going to frown on those. Those are amazing. But what's your mindset? Are you beginning with your eulogy in mind? Are you trying to figure out where you're going? Where is the destination? Because that journey is the destination, but you have to know the destination in order to maintain the journey. So I just wanted to get real with you. I was in a pickle, and I'll get real with you one more time. So I had a situation where my sister, I'm not blaming this on my sister, but my sister asked me the day of my grandfather's funeral to go on a memorial run for my grandfather. She always went to run around Niles, Ohio. It's a very, very small town right outside of Youngstown, Ohio. So I flew up there. We got up on Thursday morning early. We ran, and I stayed a little bit too long at my grandparents' house where my mom was staying. I was talking. I got back to the hotel late, and so I'm quickly showering. My brother's ready to go. We were supposed to be down at the church at 8:30 to carry my grandfather's body into the church. And I missed it. That's I let my grandfather down. So I didn't take into consideration time and being punctual, and didn't really take the honor of being a pallbearer and bringing his body in, with the greatest amount of respect as I could have. So I was running about 10, 15 minutes late. And my dad told me, don't worry about it. Just come at 9:30. We already carried his body inside. And so I honestly didn't think anything of it, which shame on me, right? I didn't think anything of it because I knew I was giving his eulogy a little bit later. And then I would, obviously I was still the pallbearer. So I grabbed his casket when we took him to the graveyard. But I didn't, right? But I didn't think I didn't think anything of it because I didn't think I hurt anyone. Well, apparently I did. I did hurt somebody, and it was my uncle, which I feel really sorry about. And so I hurt him deeply. He didn't pull me aside. He didn't let me know anything. And I found out through my mom that he was really hurt that I didn't show up to carry my grandfather's body into the church. And so I called him up, and I apologized to him, and I said, hey, like, I honestly didn't even know I hurt like somebody. I didn't know it's completely my fault. I wish I could take it back. And so I apologized to him. And, honestly, I have to move on. I don't know if the apology was, it was actually, he forgave me or not. But, I plan on sending him something, a gift, just to let him know like how sorry I am about that. And the gift is my grandfather's army tags. I had found them and I took them, and I'm like, man, after this happened, I'm like, I really think my uncle really should have them. So I'm going to write a letter to him and actually send that off to him and just let him know I apologize. There's nothing I can do about it at this point. I know my grandfather absolutely is not going to hold it against me. I'm not going to live with that regret or that cloud over my head. I love my grandfather to the ends of the earth and respect him highly, as I know he was always proud of me. So I think that, what it comes down to is that be punctual, right? That's like what I look back at it is I was like, what's the controllable in that scenario? Well, the controllable is like, number one, knowing that the amount of respect that you need to give to being a pallbearer, right? To bringing my grandfather into the church was a big deal that I missed out on, and I missed out on the opportunity to do that, experience that with my uncle. And then number two is just to be punctual, right? It's always good to be punctual. If you're 5 minutes early or 15 minutes late, I think that's a good rule of thumb. And that's something I really need to get better at. So getting real, right? Being vulnerable to self. That like the reality is like when a mess up occurs, how can you reconcile that matter? I never like to burn a bridge, but like just getting real Mondays. I just wanted to come out and just say, hey, look, like these are the opportunities. This is how I'm reflection is so big to me, and how do I reconcile that, with some of the pickles that I got myself, my mom calls them pickles, but pickles I got myself into. And sometimes you do have to go above and beyond. And so I'm just looking for ways to, obviously go above and beyond. But
Carol likes those radio edits too, Pickle's a nice clean word for, effed up. We love you, Mom. But yeah, man, I think it's great. I think that showing both sides of how you had a big win week last week. I mean, I'm getting ready for bed last night, and Matt Tack's uploading to his Instagram all these deals, and I'm like, what? One after another. But with the wins, comes some skating on thin ice with different stuff. I mean, I deal with it too. I set up audio to upload on one of my guys' podcast shows last week, and I've never used the software that he uses, and I set it and scheduled it, and I just didn't even think about it again, and it just didn't upload. I don't know. I guess their scheduler didn't post it. So I went back last night, and the file's sitting there not uploaded, and he's like, "Hey, did you upload my show this week?" And I'm like, "I mean, yeah." And I went and looked, it wasn't there. So, hey, I'm not perfect either. I mean, stuff happens. I mean, you're trying to use other people's systems. It can be crazy sometimes, but we move on. But yeah, man, it's a beautiful thing. Glad you had a strong week with closings, and I'm sure many more are on the way, because what you're doing is you're putting yourself out there, and you're doing things the right way. You're being positive. You take the good with the bad, and you adjust as you go. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. Momentum Monday, baby. Reap the harvest.
Maintain that momentum, man. Maintain that momentum. So, there's a lot of big things going on. I got a couple closings actually this week, and then hopefully coming up in the next couple weeks. So, yeah. But yeah, we're going to start up that private group. Patrick. Oh, my mom's listening in right now.
She's listening in. I gave her a shout out. I kept it clean for you there. Mama Carol. Got to keep it clean for Mama Tack. Yeah. But yeah, we're starting up the group, the Reap the Harvest group. And like I said, we're going to keep it small, probably 25 people max to start it off, and help people get results in different areas of real estate. The focus of the group is obviously business, number one. Yeah. Because that's the thing that you can focus on, hyper focus on answering people's questions on. And so really excited about that. Keep it moving. Listen to all the replays on podcast sites, in your car, on your run, on your walk, and we'll see everybody next time. Later, Matt.
Yeah, at official Matt Tag. Please follow me on Instagram.
See all those deals. See all those deals on Instagram.
Yeah. Let's do it.